Given the recent history in the Labour Party, and given the history of the foundation of the State of Israel, Kim Johnson's remarks during Prime Minister's questions were extraordinary. I was listening to the Prime Minister's questions live, and I was a little staggered to hear this and to hear no particular rebuttal or no particular intake of breath. It seemed to pass without notice. So it is extraordinarily positive to hear her apologise to an almost empty House of Commons, and for that apology to be carried by the BBC. But Kim Johnson's apology is laced with such qualification that it's hardly an apology at all. She talks about a fascist state and then says that she was wrong to use that language, but that it is far right wing. And then she talks about an apartheid state and says she shouldn't have used that word, although she was quoting Amnesty International. You know, the self-justification of this, if somebody apologized to me with that sort of self-serving qualification, I basically would throw her out and tell her to start again. And I am surprised that this level of, quote, apology is remotely acceptable. Now, the reason this is so appalling is, number one, that the Labour Party has barely recovered from its obsession with not distinguishing between Judaism and the Israeli state. And it's because of that it's got into trouble. It's perfectly possible to be sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. I'm extremely sympathetic to the Palestinian cause without being abusive to the state of Israel and to Jewish sensitivity about the state of Israel. And I think this was where Jeremy Corbyn and his supporters got into trouble. And Kim Johnson clearly has not learnt a lesson. And that apology is not an apology. An attack on the state of Israel as a fascistic state or as an apartheid state is quintessentially a Semitic attack, an anti-Semitic attack. It's wrong. It feeds into a whole ideology which is offensive. It's all the more appalling because it's done in Parliament and with parliamentary privilege. And people who are in Parliament should mind their language and should be careful about what they say, and should be careful about the sensitivity, not only the sensitivities of others, but the reality that they are referring to. And given the fact that we are barely a week away from the Holocaust commemoration, I find this insensitive and heartless and extraordinary. There are other ways to support the Palestinian cause. There are other ways to criticize the government of Israel without using such inflammatory language and without being such a self-righteous prig.